Hello everybody, my name is Josh from Park Carrigan, West Wales. We are regenerative duck breeders. This video has really been a long time coming and I'm sorry for the wait, but here it is, how to properly care for and feed your baby ducklings. The brooding phase lasts for about 14 days. So they'll spend the first 2 weeks of their life in this tub and they need, for that period of time, a heat source, whether that's a brood plate or a heat lamp. After 14 days, they no longer need a heat source, but they still need protection. So if you want them in the garden, they need to be supervised. You can't let them free range on their own. Once they reach 7 weeks, you'll see that they've got most of their feathers and they've put on a bit of weight. And at that point, a wild bird won't be able to swoop by and pick them up. So you can leave them to free range in the garden. Of course, like with any poultry, you still need to make sure that they have adequate fencing around them so that foxes, stray dogs or cats can't get to them. But from about 7 weeks old, they're safe from aerial predators. What you're going to need is feeders, drinkers, a large tub, and a brood plate. The drinkers. We recommend a drinker like this one, quite a large one so that you don't have to keep refilling it. These ones you flip over, you fill them up, and then you just clip the lid on and then turn it over. Okay, this is another kind of drinker, another option. The problem with this one is that it's got quite a large tub there, and the ducklings climb in there and they splash around, and probably in about 30 minutes 5 ducklings could even drain that just because they're swimming in it, splashing it everywhere. This one's a little bit better because they can't quite get in there and swim as well. This is a feeder and this is another feeder option, so a trough and one of these filling feeders. I don't recommend these as much as these ones because these ones allow you to put feed in them, and you could also put some water in there and make a mash. Ducks really like their food to be wet rather than dry, so even when you're using chick crumb, it's a good idea to be able to make mash, and one of these troughs lets you do that. These bars, just make sure you get one that's small enough with these bars so that the ducklings can't get in there. Then ideally you'd have a brood plate. You get different sizes. This is a medium size. We've got a larger one as well, but you can get much smaller ones than this for if you have fewer ducklings. The way these work is they have legs which clip in, and you can adjust the height so that you can raise it or lower it for the ducklings. You can also obviously use a heat lamp, but I do recommend the brood plates. They are very good, lower risk for fire as well. Also, this particular brood plate is designed for probably roughly 40 or 50 ducklings. So it can do quite a lot. You don't need one this big, you can use one much smaller. And then the next thing you're going to need is a tub. So ducklings are really messy, they splash water everywhere. So what we use is a large tub, and we put bedding inside it, and it means that when they're splashing water, it just splashes up against the sides of the tub, and you can very easily empty the tub and clean it out. Another thing that people sometimes do is they make a tray, maybe out of, for example, like a paint tray with a little bit of mesh on top of that, and then you can put the drinker on top of that, and when they splash water around, it falls into the tray and you can regularly empty the tray so that you don't end up getting loads of water building up in your bedding. But we're not using that in this situation just because we can put a lot of bedding in there, it absorbs all the moisture, and then we frequently just scoop out and empty that bedding. And then in terms of bedding, I'll show you, this is the kind of bedding you want to be using. Okay, so this is super dry wood chip and sawdust. It's important that it's really dry because then it becomes really absorbent. So you can get similar stuff in your local pet shop or farmers cooperative. In regards to feeding ducklings, they need chick crumb, which is high in protein, for the first 1 to 2 weeks. As they get to 2 weeks old and onwards, you can start feeding them growers pellets, which are actually just larger in size. But this is chick crumb, and that is high in protein. I believe it's around 20% protein. After that, they go into growers pellets, which are around 18% protein. Okay, but the important thing about ducklings is that they respond really badly to some of the standard medications that you get in chicken feed. So you need to make sure that you're either getting an organic feed, because that will standard and not come with coccidiostats, which is the antibiotic that they use in chicken feed, or it doesn't necessarily have to be organic. There are some brands that just don't have it, and they're not, you do come across non-organic brands that just don't have added medication, but you have to look on the label and make sure there's no coccidiostats in the feed. That's really important for ducks. When in doubt, just get an organic feed, but otherwise check the label. One thing you can do if you're really struggling to find a chick crumb that doesn't have medication in it, you can actually feed them a grower's pellet, make a mash from that so that it ends up being easier for them to eat, and then you can supplement additional protein by just whipping them up some scrambled eggs. Those could be chicken eggs, those could be duck eggs. I know it sounds weird, but it's really good for them, and it's got loads of protein. So that's an alternative if you can't find some actual non-medicated chick crumb. The other thing that you need is chick grit, like this. Okay, that's because ducks, like chickens, have gizzards and they need to grind down their food, and that's why they need the grit. And then the next thing to know about ducks specifically over chickens is that ducks have a higher requirement for niacin, and generally chicken food, which is standard in any farmer's co-op or pet store, doesn't have the right amount of niacin. Ducks need more than chickens. So the way that we do supplement additional niacin is by just adding a bit of brewer's yeast to their water. We just buy this particular brand off Amazon. I'm not going to try and pronounce that, but hopefully you can see it on the camera. And it's not an exact science really. You just take a little bit of this brewer's yeast and you just add it to their water every time you give them water. And it's most important when they're ducklings growing up to the point of about 7 weeks, because after 7 weeks they'll be hopefully out in your garden, in the pasture. They'll be foraging for bugs and slugs, and they will get plenty of their B vitamins naturally in the pasture. But until 7 weeks, you don't want them to be unsupervised foraging, and so you should ideally supplement with niacin in the form of brewer's yeast. Right, now that the ducklings are in their tub with their heat source, their drinker and their feeder, they're going to be here for about 14 days. A couple of do's and don'ts. So make sure you do check on them at least 3 times a day. At this age they are very fragile and they do need supervision. And don't allow unsupervised swimming at this age. It's really fun to watch them swim, and they can swim, but because their oil glands aren't fully developed yet, they can't stay dry properly. So it's very easy for them to get wet and cold, sometimes even drown as a result of being saturated. Thanks for watching everybody. I hope you found this video useful. If you've enjoyed it, Please like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Bye bye.